The night sky above the Advanced Research Facility in Chile's Atacama Desert sparkled with an unusual intensity. Dr. Elena Rodriguez adjusted her quantum anomaly detector, her fingers dancing across holographic displays that seemed to breathe with living data. The massive array of telescopes and sensors looked like a technological wonderland, a testament to humanity's relentless pursuit of understanding. Something was different tonight. The quantum sensors were picking up minute fluctuations that didn't match any known celestial pattern. Elena had spent the last decade developing this detection system, convinced that humanity's first contact would come from the most unexpected source. Her colleagues had laughed, calling her a dreamer, but she knew better. Deep beneath the Colorado mountains, a different kind of preparation was underway. The North American Unified Defense Command had been anticipating this moment for decades. General Marcus Chen studied a series of classified reports, his experienced eyes catching details that would escape most observers. The facility around him was a marvel of human engineering, a command center that looked more like a living organism than a traditional military installation. "Status report," Chen called out, his voice calm but charged with an underlying current of anticipation. Lieutenant Sarah Kim responded immediately, her fingers flying across multiple holographic interfaces, alien reconnaissance signatures detected in the outer solar system perimeter. Multiple quantum communication anomalies. They're scanning, but they don't know we're scanning back. The room hummed with a controlled energy. Years of preparation, decades of secret research, generations of technological development were about to be put to the ultimate test. Humanity had been preparing for this moment, not out of fear, but out of an innate understanding that the universe was vast, complex, and full of potential encounters. In a hidden research facility in Tokyo, Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka completed the final calibrations on a quantum entanglement communication prototype. The device was smaller than a smartphone, but contained more computational power than entire data centers from just 20 years ago. He smiled, knowing that what looked like a simple piece of technology was actually a breakthrough that would change everything. Back in the Atacama, Elena's quantum detector suddenly came alive. A series of complex patterns began to emerge, alien communication signatures that most scientific instruments would have missed entirely. But not hers. Each ping was not just being detected but was being analyzed, decoded, and transformed into something else entirely. "Marcus," Elena's voice crackled through a secure communication channel. "They're here, and they have no idea what's coming." In the underground command center, General Chen allowed himself a slight smile. The alien reconnaissance ships believed they were observing an unsuspecting planet. They saw a species still confined to a single solar system, technologically primitive, politically fractured. What they didn't see was the intricate web of global cooperation that had been developing for decades. A young technician burst into the room, her eyes wild with a mixture of excitement and anticipation. "Sir, the preliminary analysis is complete. The alien fleet's communication patterns suggest a standard colonial acquisition protocol." Chen's response was measured. "Tell me something I don't know." The technician grinned. "They think we're the prey. We're about to show them we're the predators." Across the globe, in research facilities, military installations, and secret laboratories, humanity was coming together. Not through traditional diplomatic channels, but through a network of shared knowledge, collective innovation, and a spirit of unprecedented cooperation. The sleeping giant was about to awaken, and the galaxy would never be the same. Captain Lyra of the Zarkonian Diplomatic Exploration Fleet felt an unusual sensation crawling along her neural implant. Something about the approaching planet felt fundamentally wrong. Her species had cataloged thousands of civilizations during their galactic expansion, and Earth should have been just another routine acquisition. The preliminary intelligence reports painted a picture of a fractured, technologically limited species, multiple competing nation-states, limited space exploration, primitive energy production. All indicators suggested an easy subjugation. Yet something about the human communication channel suggested a complexity that defied standard classification. her second-in-command, Commander Verzek, reviewed the latest data streams. Standard protocol indicates minimal resistance. Their weapons technology appears to be generations behind our own defensive capabilities. Lyra wasn't convinced. The human response to their initial contact probe had been unusual. Most species greeted potential galactic contacts with either abject terror or desperate submission. The humans seemed almost amused. The communication log played again on her primary display. ZARCONIN, DIPOMETIXI Terranensination, planetary species designated for systematic cultural integration. Prepare for diplomatic protocol initiation. Human RESPOS City. Your transmission has been received and is under review. Please stand by for official communication. Stand by. Two simple words that carried an inexplicable weight. In the diplomatic communication center aboard the Lid Zarkonian vessel, linguists and cultural analysts worked overtime. The human response didn't match any known first contact scenario in their extensive databases. There was no panic, no fear, no immediate capitulation. Just a calm, almost bureaucratic acknowledgement. Lyra accessed the comprehensive file on human civilization. The data seemed contradictory. Multiple conflicting governance systems. Constant technological competition. A species that seemed perpetually on the brink of self-destruction, yet simultaneously producing remarkable innovations at an unprecedented rate. Their scientific publications were bizarre. Researchers from different nations and disciplines collaborating on projects that seemed to defy conventional academic boundaries. Medical breakthroughs developed by teams spanning continents. Engineering solutions that merged biological understanding with technological innovation. They're preparing something, Lyra muttered, more to herself than to her crew. Commander Verzak looked puzzled. Preparing? For what? Our technological superiority is absolute. Their most advanced spacecraft couldn't breach our lowest-tier defensive shields. But Lyra had been in diplomatic missions long enough to recognize the subtle signs of a civilization with hidden depths. The humans weren't just waiting. They were calculating. A new communication request came through. Unlike previous transmissions, this one carried a complex encryption signature that momentarily confused the ship's communication systems. When it resolved, a human diplomatic representative appeared. A middle-aged woman with piercing green eyes and an expression that suggested she knew something the Zarkonians did not. "Greetings," she said, her voice calm and measured. "We appreciate your interstellar communication and are reviewing your proposal with the appropriate global committees." The phrase "appropriate global committees" was itself a red flag. Most species they'd encountered had centralized leadership. Humans seemed to operate on an entirely different principle of collective decision-making. Lyra felt the first genuine sense of unease she'd experienced in her decades-long diplomatic career. The humans weren't just another species to be cataloged and controlled. They were something else entirely. Something was coming. And the Zarkonian fleet was about to discover that everything they knew about first contact was wrong. The global preparation was a symphony of innovation and collaboration that no external observer could have anticipated. Beneath the surface of every major city, a network of extraordinary potential came alive. In Tokyo, the quantum engineering team led by Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka worked with an intensity that defied conventional research methods. Their latest breakthrough in quantum entanglement communication wasn't just a technological marvel, it was a complete reimagining of information transfer. What looked like a simple prototype could potentially render existing communication technologies obsolete. "We're not just creating a communication device," Dr. Tanaka explained to his team. "We're developing a new language of information exchange that the aliens can't possibly understand." Across the Pacific, in Silicon Valley, a collective of the world's most brilliant software architects gathered in a secure facility. They weren't just designing battle algorithms, they were creating adaptive intelligence systems that could learn, evolve, and respond faster than any known computational method. Dr. Maya Rodriguez, the lead architect, explained the core concept to her international team. Traditional AI learns from past data. Our system doesn't just learn, it predicts, adapts, and creates entirely new solution paths in real time. The team had spent years developing neural networks that could process complex scenarios with a level of intuition that bordered on precognition. Each line of code was a potential game changer, a digital weapon more powerful than any physical armament. In Cape Town, a different kind of preparation was underway. Biomechanical engineers worked on exoskeleton prototypes that could transform an average human into a near superhuman operational unit. But these weren't just military designs. Each system was a marvel of human-centric engineering, focusing on protection, adaptability, and minimal physical strain. Dr. Kwame Osei, the lead biomechanical engineer, viewed their work as more than just a defensive technology. "We're not creating weapons," he told his international team. "We're expanding human potential." The prototypes could enhance strength, provide environmental protection, and integrate seamlessly with advanced communication and data systems. A single operator could potentially manage complex operations that would previously require entire teams. Underground research facilities that had been working on classified projects for decades began to synchronize. These weren't just national initiatives. They were a global network of human potential, operating with a level of cooperation that would shock any external observer. In a secure facility beneath the Swiss Alps, a unique coalition of scientists, mathematicians, and strategists worked on something unprecedented. They weren't just preparing for a potential conflict. They were developing a comprehensive response that would challenge everything known about interstellar engagement. "Our strength isn't in individual technologies," explained Dr. Elena Rodriguez during a global secure conference. "Our strength is our ability to integrate, to collaborate, to see beyond our individual limitations." The preparation was holistic. Medical researchers developed adaptive treatment protocols for potential unknown biological scenarios. Climate scientists modeled potential environmental interactions. Linguists created comprehensive communication matrix systems that could potentially decode and respond to entirely unknown communication methods. What the potential alien visitors didn't understand was that humanity's apparent fragmentation was actually its greatest strength. Each nation, each research team, each individual was a node in a global network of potential. They weren't just preparing for a potential conflict, they were redefining the very concept of preparedness. The sleeping giant wasn't just stretching, it was transforming. As the final preparations came together, a sense of anticipation grew. This wasn't about defense. This was about showing the universe what humanity could truly become. The stage was set, and the galaxy would never be the same. The first engagement was nothing short of a cosmic ballet of unexpected complexity. Zarkonian destroyer Captain Lyra watched in growing disbelief as her supposedly invincible fleet encountered something entirely beyond their comprehension. Human vessels moved with a fluidity that defied standard combat algorithms. They weren't just fighting. They were performing an intricate dance of technological improvisation. Where Zarkonian military doctrine demanded rigid formation and predictable tactical responses, the human ships seemed to have no doctrine at all. And that was precisely their strength. One Zarkonian destroyer found itself caught in an impossible web of gravitational anomalies. The ship's sophisticated navigation systems couldn't comprehend the complex field that seemed to materialize from nowhere. Sensors detected multiple point sources of gravitational manipulation, but the sources were constantly shifting, adapting, disappearing. Commander Verzek's voice crackled with barely contained panic. "Captain, our defensive protocols are ineffective. The human vessels are. They're not following any known combat pattern." Indeed, the human response was unlike anything in the Zarkonian combat archives. Small craft moved with a collective intelligence that suggested they were more than just independently piloted ships. They worked as a single, breathing organism, communicating and adjusting tactics in microseconds. A swarm of smaller human vessels approached another Zarkonian cruiser. Instead of a direct assault, They began to create complex interference patterns that disrupted the ship's energy systems. It wasn't destruction. It was systematic, intelligent neutralization. "They're not trying to destroy us," Lyra muttered, more to herself than to her crew. "They're trying to understand us." Each human vessel seemed to be collecting data, adapting, learning. What looked like chaos was actually a highly sophisticated distributed intelligence network. Traditional military analysis would have called it impossible. The humans were rewriting the very concept of space combat. In the command center beneath the Colorado Mountains, General Marcus Chen watched the engagement with a calm that belied the monumental nature of the moment. Holographic displays showed real-time data from thousands of sensors, each one feeding into a comprehensive adaptive strategy system. "They're learning faster than we anticipated," Dr. Elena Rodriguez commented, her fingers dancing across a complex interface. "Our predictive models are being updated in real time." The human response was holistic. Military systems, scientific research, and technological development were no longer separate disciplines. They were a unified, living mechanism of collective intelligence. A young technician called out a series of complex calculations: gravitational interference pattern stabilizing, energy redirection at 78% efficiency, adaptive shield harmonics creating quantum-level disruption. The words meant little to an outside observer, but they represented a fundamental reimagining of space combat. Humanity wasn't just defending, they were conducting a live research experiment, turning each moment of conflict into a learning opportunity. Zarkonian communication channels began to show signs of confusion. Their rigid hierarchical systems couldn't process the fluid, adaptive nature of human engagement. What should have been a straightforward planetary acquisition was turning into something entirely unexpected. Captain Lyra realized with a growing sense of unease that they were no longer dealing with a primitive species defending its home. They were confronting an entirely new form of collective intelligence, one that didn't just react to threats, but transformed them into opportunities for understanding. The first engagement was drawing to a close, and nothing would ever be the same again. The sleeping giant had not just awakened, it had reimagined the very concept of conflict. The technological revolution was happening faster than anyone could have predicted. What the Zarkonians didn't understand was that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't any single piece of technology. It was the ability to innovate collectively, to transform every challenge into an opportunity for breakthrough. In a research facility in Mumbai, Priya Sharma completed an algorithm that would change everything. What started as a simple communication optimization project had evolved into a breakthrough that could potentially rewrite the rules of interstellar information exchange. Her team had been working for 72 hours straight, fueled by a combination of caffeine, determination, and an almost electrical sense of purpose. "It's not just about creating a new communication method," Priya explained to her exhausted but excited colleagues. "We're developing a language of innovation that can adapt faster than any existing communication system." Across the globe in Los Angeles, aerospace engineer Marcus Wong was modifying shield algorithms based on the most recent engagement data. Each piece of information from the conflict was being processed, analyzed, and transformed into new technological possibilities. What would have taken years of research was now happening in hours. The neural network in a research facility in Berlin was a marvel of collective intelligence. It wasn't just processing data, it was learning, evolving, creating entirely new solution paths in real time. Each millisecond brought new insights, new possibilities that defied traditional computational methods. Dr. Elena Rodriguez coordinated the global research effort from the underground command center. What looked like chaos to an outside observer was actually a highly sophisticated network of human potential. Scientists, engineers, programmers, and strategists from every corner of the globe were working as a single breathing organism of innovation. "We're not just defending," Elena explained during a secure global conference. "We're expanding the very boundaries of what's possible." The Zarkonian technological advantage began to crumble. Their centuries of galactic dominance had created a rigid system of technological development. They improved incrementally, following established protocols. Humans did something entirely different. They reimagined entire systems from the ground up. In Cape Town, the biomechanical engineering team developed an exoskeleton prototype that could adapt to multiple environmental conditions in real time. It wasn't just a piece of technology. It was a living system that could learn and modify itself based on environmental inputs. Dr. Kwame Osei, the lead engineer, viewed their work as more than just a technological achievement. "We're expanding human potential," he told his international team. "Each breakthrough is a step towards understanding our own capabilities." The quantum communication team in Tokyo made a breakthrough that would have been considered impossible just weeks ago. Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka's team had developed a communication method that could transmit complex information across vast distances, using quantum entanglement in ways that defied existing scientific understanding. "Information isn't just about transmission," Tanaka explained. "It's about context, adaptation, collective understanding." Every research team, every individual was becoming a node in a global network of innovation. The apparent fragmentation of human society, multiple nations, competing research teams, diverse cultural backgrounds, was actually its greatest strength. Each perspective brought something unique, something transformative. The Zirconian observation logs would later show something unprecedented. In the midst of a potential conflict, this species wasn't just defending. They were conducting the most comprehensive, collective research experiment in galactic history. Humanity wasn't just fighting a war. They were rewriting the fundamental rules of technological development. The sleeping giant wasn't just awake. It was transforming everything it touched. The information war was unlike anything the Zirconian civilization had ever encountered. While physical battles continued in the depths of space, a more profound conflict raged across communication networks, media channels, and cultural platforms. Human content began to flood Zirconian communication channels. It wasn't a military assault. It was something far more powerful. Children explaining complex scientific concepts with infectious enthusiasm. Musicians composing battle hymns that spoke of hope, resilience, and collective potential. Philosophers and scientists broadcasting open letters that challenged the fundamental assumptions of galactic civilization. In a secure communication center aboard the Zirconian flagship, communication analysts worked frantically to understand the unprecedented cultural phenomenon. Young Zirconian crew members found themselves captivated by human broadcasts, documentaries about scientific discoveries, artistic performances that told stories of human struggle and triumph, educational content that reimagined learning as a collaborative, dynamic process. Area. A junior communication specialist couldn't look away from a documentary about human space exploration. The footage showed early astronauts, primitive by Zirconian standards, risking everything to explore the unknown. Their motivation wasn't conquest or resource extraction. It was pure curiosity, a fundamental desire to understand. "They're not like any species we've encountered," Aria whispered to her colleague, her neural implant trembling with an emotion close to wonder. The human approach to information was itself a weapon. Where Zirconian communication was hierarchical and controlled, human information networks were chaotic, dynamic, self-correcting. Every piece of content seemed to carry an underlying message of individual potential and collective possibility. A viral video series featuring scientists from different nations collaborating on seemingly impossible projects began to circulate. In one episode, a team of researchers from India, Brazil, and Canada worked together to develop a revolutionary approach to environmental restoration. They weren't just solving a problem. They were telling a story of human cooperation. Social media platforms became battlegrounds of a different kind. Memes, educational content, and cultural exchanges spread faster than any traditional communication method. Young Zirconians found themselves questioning everything they knew about hierarchy, freedom, and potential. Dr. Elena Rodriguez understood the power of this approach. During a secure global briefing, she explained the strategy to military and scientific leaders. "We're not just defending. We're offering an alternative vision of existence. The cultural assault was multilayered. Academic papers discussing collaborative problem-solving. Musical compositions that told stories of human resilience. Art installations that reimagined cultural boundaries. Each piece of content was a subtle challenge to the Zarkonian understanding of civilization. A group of human musicians created a series of compositions that used complex mathematical principles as their foundation. The music wasn't just art. It was a demonstration of human creativity, a bridge between scientific understanding and emotional expression. Linguists worked on communication matrices that could potentially decode and respond to entirely unknown communication methods. They weren't just preparing for conflict, they were creating a framework for understanding. The most powerful weapon was something the Zarkonians couldn't comprehend: hope. Human content carried an underlying message of possibility, of collective potential, of the ability to overcome seemingly impossible challenges. Young Zarkonian crew members began to question their mission. The rigid hierarchical structure that had defined their civilization for millennia suddenly seemed limited. Commander Verzak watched in growing concern as the crew's morale began to shift. This wasn't a traditional conflict. This was a fundamental challenge to their entire way of understanding existence. The sleeping giant wasn't just fighting. It was inviting the galaxy to reimagine what was possible. The turning point came from an unexpected source. A collaborative team of human historians, anthropologists, and game theorists had been working on something far more profound than a simple military strategy. They were decoding the fundamental weaknesses in the Zarkonian fleet's operational structure. Dr. Marcus Chen, a military strategist with a background in complex systems theory, presented their findings to the Global Defense Council. The conference room was a testament to human collaboration. Experts from every continent, each bringing a unique perspective to the table. What looks like chaos in our approach is actually a sophisticated distributed intelligence network, Chen explained, his holographic presentation revealing intricate layers of potential strategic responses. The Zarkonians operate on a hierarchical command structure. We operate like a living, breathing ecosystem. The key insight was deceptively simple. Where Zarkonian fleet coordination relied on centralized decision-making, human strategy embraced a completely different approach. Each vessel, each team, each individual was both an independent actor and part of a larger adaptive network. Captain Lyra of the Zarkonian fleet began to understand the true nature of their miscalculation. What had appeared to be a disorganized human response was actually a hyper-intelligent collective strategy that could adapt faster than any known computational system. In the Berlin research facility, the neural network developed by Dr. Elena Rodriguez's team had been processing every moment of the conflict. It wasn't just analyzing past data, it was predicting potential scenarios with an almost prescient accuracy. Each engagement became an opportunity for collective learning, with information flowing between military, scientific, and strategic teams at unprecedented speeds. A young programmer in Mumbai had developed an adaptive communication protocol that allowed human vessels to communicate and coordinate in ways that defied traditional military communication methods. What looked like random movements were actually a complex dance of collective intelligence. The Zarkonian fleet found itself confronting a fundamental challenge to everything they understood about warfare, communication, and collective action. Human vessels didn't just respond to threats, they transformed them into opportunities for understanding and innovation. Dr. Kwame Osei from the Cape Town research team explained it during a secure global briefing. We're not just fighting a conflict. We're conducting the most comprehensive research experiment in galactic history. Each human vessel became a node in a living, breathing network of intelligence. They shared information, adapted strategies, and responded to challenges with a flexibility that seemed almost organic. Where a Zarkonian ship would follow a rigid protocol, a human vessel would improvise, learn, and evolve in real time. The breakthrough came when the research team identified a fundamental resonance frequency in the Zarkonian fleet's communication systems. It wasn't about destroying their technology. It was about understanding it so completely that they could render it ineffective. Captain Lyra watched in growing disbelief as her once unassailable fleet began to lose its cohesion. The human response wasn't just a military strategy. It was a complete reimagining of collective action. "They're not just fighting," Lyra muttered to herself. "They're evolving." Commander Verzak's communication became increasingly fragmented. The rigid Zarkonian command structure was breaking down, unable to comprehend the fluid, adaptive nature of human engagement. In the underground command center, General Marcus Chen allowed himself a slight smile. They weren't just defending Earth. They were demonstrating a new paradigm of existence, one that valued adaptability, collective intelligence, and endless potential. The sleeping giant had not just awakened. It had transformed the very nature of conflict, communication, and collective potential. And the galaxy would never be the same again. The resolution of the conflict was unlike any first contact in galactic history. It wasn't a traditional victory or defeat. It was a fundamental reimagining of interstellar relations. Captain Lyra stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching as the complex communication matrices developed by human researchers began to decode the deepest layers of Zarkonian cultural understanding. What had begun as a potential conquest had transformed into the most profound cultural exchange in recorded history. Dr. Elena Rodriguez led the diplomatic team responsible for the final communication. She understood that this wasn't about winning or losing. It was about demonstrating a new paradigm of existence, one based on collective potential, adaptive intelligence, and boundless curiosity. The Zarkonian fleet didn't withdraw in defeat. They withdrew in a state of profound transformation. Everything they understood about hierarchy, civilization, and potential had been fundamentally challenged. Young Zarkonian crew members found themselves captivated by the human approach. Their rigid societal structures seemed suddenly limiting. The human demonstration of collective intelligence, individual potential, and adaptive thinking had opened up entirely new possibilities. In a secure communication chamber, the diplomatic teams from both civilizations began a dialogue that would reshape galactic understanding. It wasn't a negotiation in the traditional sense. It was a mutual exploration of potential. "We're not just sharing information," Dr. Rodriguez explained to her team. "We're demonstrating a completely different approach to existence." The technological breakthroughs that emerged from this initial contact were unprecedented. Quantum communication protocols developed during the conflict became the foundation for a new form of interstellar communication. Adaptive learning systems created by human researchers began to transform how complex information could be processed and understood. Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka from the Tokyo research team presented a revolutionary communication matrix that could potentially bridge entirely different forms of intelligence. What had started as a defensive technology was now becoming a tool for unprecedented cultural exchange. The Zarkonian leadership found themselves confronting a fundamental challenge to their entire understanding of civilization. Humanity wasn't just another species to be cataloged or controlled. They were a transformative force that would reshape galactic interactions for generations to come. Commander Verzak, once a staunch defender of Zarkonian expansion, now found himself advocating for a completely new approach to interstellar relations. The rigid hierarchical systems that had defined their civilization for millennia suddenly seemed obsolete. Aboard the Human Global Coordination Center, General Marcus Chen understood the true significance of what had occurred. This wasn't just about defending Earth. It was about demonstrating a new way of existing, a model of civilization based on collective potential, adaptive intelligence, and boundless curiosity. The research teams that had been working in secret for decades now found themselves at the forefront of the most significant cultural exchange in human history. Scientists, linguists, mathematicians, and strategists from every corner of the globe had come together to create something unprecedented. A series of cultural and scientific exchange programs began to take shape. Human researchers would share their adaptive learning systems. Zarkonian scientists would provide insights into their long-studied technological innovations. Each civilization would learn from the other, creating a new model of interstellar cooperation. The sleeping giant had not just awakened. It had transformed the very concept of first contact, of civilization, of potential. As the first joint research vessels prepared for their maiden voyage, humanity looked to the stars with a sense of boundless possibility. This wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. The real journey was just starting.